Human rights groups have criticized Nigeria's judicial system following the court appearance of dozens of alleged protesters, many of whom appeared to be severely malnourished following 2 months of detention. At least 27 of the suspects were boys below the age of 18. Now, many looked frail and were unable to stand. 4 people collapsed on the floor of the courtroom before being removed to get medical help. A 10 million naira bail each has been granted to 114 protesters.
These are among protesters arrested in several states, including Abuja, Kano, Plateau, Kaduna, Gombe, Katsina, Yobe, Bauchi, Borno, and Jigawa. 76 of the suspects were arraigned before the trial judge, Obiora Egwatu. 4 of them suddenly took ill during the trial. The remaining 72 were admitted to bail in the sum of 10 million naira with 2 sureties, one of whom must be a civil servant. Following a second arraignment, 42 were granted bail after the 43rd suspect also suddenly took ill and was excused. The terms of bail are the same as for the 72 suspects. Until they meet the bail conditions, the adults among the suspects will be remanded at the Kuje prison, while the minors will be at the Boston home. The hunger protesters are accused by the Nigerian government of acting in collaboration with the British National Andrew Wine to destabilize Nigeria.
All of them are adults. Most of them are married men. None of them is a minor. Some of them are university graduates. The small kids you are seeing here, they came with some of their parents to come and greet their loved ones. They are not even the real suspects standing trial in this case. These boys were arrested in Kaduna and Zaria. Imagine the level we find ourselves now. Do you know how much it costs us to be at this level of a democracy in this country? These young boys are trying to destabilize Nigeria using the Russian flags and other countries, calling on the military to remove our president. Is it fair to even remove the state governors that they don't want democracy again? If you don't like democracy, are we forcing you? You go back home and sit.
Justice Egwatu, upon seeing the fainting of these young persons of school age, had to had to stand down proceedings abruptly. We had to rush some of these young children to the clinic within the facility of the court for them to be resuscitated. Some of them are still receiving treatment as I speak to you in the clinic. This young person has been arrested since the 2nd day of August, 2024. Over 3 months, they've been left without clothing, without housing, without proper care. They are looking very malnourished.
Meanwhile, the case has been adjourned to January 24, 2025.
Well, for more on the criticism and uproar over the appearance and possible treatment of the alleged protesters, we're now being joined by lawyer and Arise News analyst Frank Tietie. Frank, good to see you and thanks for your time. Human rights concerns, treatment of detainees. What are your primary concerns, looking at that report and also the comment by a colleague of yours, they said, Leonard.
Fellow lawyer.
Well, according to Nelson Mandela, there can be no keener revelation of a society's soul other than the way it treats its children. Today, the soul of our nation is on trial because the entire world is watching or was watching and is actually watching. Now, there cannot be any pretension by the judge, by the court, and by the entire world that those persons that we saw in those visuals are not children below the age of 18. And apart from that, there can also be no doubt that they are actually living in they were living in squalid condition, and they are actually in very, serious condition as we speak in terms of their health, highly malnourished, seriously disheveled. And where do we start, and how did we get here? Now, how would children in the first place, because certain things can appear quite ludicrous, when you think that children in our country can now take up arms to make our president to be afraid, to now, and then in certain places, particularly in northern Nigeria, specifically in Kano, Kaduna, and all that, and then you ship them to Abuja, even though the Administration of Criminal Justice House, for exceptional reasons, would allow you, for security reasons, to do such a thing. We treat our own citizens as if they are enemies, whereas prisoners of war cannot be treated worse than the way the conditions and the visuals and pictures we've seen concerning those children. So you asked me a personal question, and I'll tell you that we have a problem in this country, and the problem is that persons in public service appear to glorify the fact that we are a third world country, and they enjoy keeping us in that third world state. Because whereas we have every opportunity to treat ourselves right, we take delight in that. So what we have seen in course of this trial today, by reason of some persons who are trying to be politically correct, whether it is the court or the prosecutor, you see, it's a problem. I'm amazed and shocked to realize that even the judge could not. There is no political correctness here. This is our country. This is the soul of our country on trial here. The judge should be able to look at those children and say, there is a problem. Prosecutor, are you telling me that these children are fit for trial? I mean, he should have convinced himself that first they were fit for trial before the trial could go on. And when there were some of them that were clearly children, and some of them were fainting and at the point of dying, the judge had the inherent powers to direct that, please, trial is not going on. I hereby order that medical treatment, medical facilities, and adequate provision according to the provisions of the Constitution be given to them immediately. He directs it. But there is this problem with us, as if there is this competition for us to please somebody against the simple provisions of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, of the provisions of the Child Rights Act. So this is an opportunity for us to put ourselves on trial, and whether we want to continue to treat ourselves as the enemies, as our own enemies, as we have seen today in that trial.
Frank Tietie, one might be tempted to say maybe Nigeria really has come full circle. Where will salvation come from if we show to the world that we can do this with minors? What happens to the principle of doli in capax? How does it apply here?
The problem is this. First and foremost, being a child is a matter of fact. Are you getting what I'm saying?
Right.
Whereas I understand you can say that the matter is sub judice. Yes, we are not parties to the matter. We are not precluded from making comments as to what is obvious. And the fact is that what we've seen there is horrendous. As a matter of fact, when you consider that these children have been in detention, according to the report, for 90 days, that is horrendous. Nothing could be more terrible than the way we treat children. Now, when you ask the question that where is hope coming from, it's simple. I started the first case that brought the application of the Child Rights Act in this country, Frank Tietie versus Attorney General of the Federation. I went a whole lot to ensure that in every matter that concerns any child below 18, apply the principles under the Child Rights Act. For goodness sake, even the Administration of Criminal Justice Act sections 371, once it concerns a child, apply the Child Rights Act. So why are we acting like this?
What does the Child Rights Act say specifically in this situation?
The point is that when it comes to detention of children, there must be specific provision for child centers, for you to detain these children in child centers. In fact, particularly section 250 of the Child Rights Act provides that you can actually detain them while they can still go to school. So we see this kind of treating our children as if they are enemies. We not only prevent them from going to school, we detain them even though they are a victim of one form of a society that is venal. It's a society, there's some form of indoctrination, and our country doesn't think of saving these children, but actually destroying these children.
I'll have to calm you down, really, because this really can provoke all kinds of emotions, and one can only try to hold things back here so that we can make sense, and hopefully those in authority who make decisions will know the right thing to do. Let's call for that. Yeah, Sulai.
Okay, let's take a look at that report and we'll come back to Frank.
The use of the word of minor, I don't understand, because those that are not criminally liable under the law, those are the people that are young ones below the age of 7. Once you are more than 7, you can be charged to court. The only thing is that you need to follow certain procedures to do that. But none of them is less than 7. I think the youngest should be 13. The fact that you're a 13-year-old doesn't mean you cannot be charged to court. So anybody, even in the Children and Young Persons Act, you can still charge you to court because you are 13-year-old. You can go to court. These are those who actually are leveraged on the End Bad Governance protest. They hijacked the protest and they are so violent. They are the people that are flying the Russian flags and many foreign flags, which of course is a punishable offense. So we and every custodial facility of the government in Nigeria takes care of the inmates, whether those that they have decided on their cases or those that still are awaiting trial. The 76 of them were charged to court, and they have been with us on court order. Anyway, the police has not detained anybody illegally. We have not acted illegally on this in this case so far. But today we are very surprised. We are taken aback to witness the drama that played out today at the courts when the 6 of them fainted. But we are shocked because nobody has ever reported any ailment or underlying ailments to the police before now. By and large, the court has the discretion to decide, and the court has granted them bail. Why before they meet up with the conditions, the bail conditions, I think they should be in the correctional facility. That's the job of the Nigerian Correctional Service. They will take care of them, and when they meet up with their bail condition, they can go. But this will not in any way stop the prosecution.
Well, that's the police there for you, and we come back to you, Frank. You reminded us of even in the law of war that there are rules, and now we're talking about people in custody. As they say, seeing is believing, and for those who do not believe in that, at least believing is also seeing. So you have to believe sometimes to feel this. So for these children, clearly looking at them, you can see that they've been, starved, they're malnourished.
Ill-treated in detention.
It's surprising that the police spokesman doesn't even see that at the moment. So how can human rights, activists, jump into this and bring the legal perspective and protect the rights of people in custody at the moment, as we've seen with those children?
See, there is a National Human Rights Commission that doesn't need any form of activation, in this case, to take action. As we speak, the National Human Rights Commission is a custodian, is a repository of human rights standards in this country, a representation of the United Nations Human Rights Standards. So we expect it to act. That's one. The police officer in that report was saying that they have not acted illegally. But of course, they have acted inhumanely. Because in this country, you cannot subject anybody to such inhumane and degrading treatment as we've seen those children being subjected to. Did we not see them? Did the judge not see them? The judge is a human being, not an artificial intelligence. Did he not see them? And then, are we telling ourselves that those are is that the best Nigeria could do at 21 years after it has adopted the Child Rights Act? For goodness sake, 21 years after it has adopted the Child Rights Act, with over 24 states domesticating the act, domesticating the United Nations Child Convention. We don't have adequate facilities to take care of our children that they could stay in detention for 90 days. For goodness sake, are we criminals as a country? Let's understand that. I cannot emphasize that enough. You're telling me what way out of this? Why are you passing the buck to human rights organization? Look, we've long quit that idea of forming NGOs for the idea of receiving donor funds and doing nothing but speaking grammar. So, but Do we have to wait for the United Nations? Do we have to wait for one donor from the United States to give us money before we start doing what, advocating for what is right? Look, what is expected is that government, you have signed treaties to take care of your own people. The United Nations is asking you maintain standards that you have signed to and obligated to do, and you violate them as if you take delight in that.
Now, add to that the fact that these children, 76 of the detained, they've been slammed a 760 million naira bail. That's on the one hand. And look, can there be a null prosequi here? Shouldn't that be...
Look, the embarrassment is just too much for us as individuals, as lawyers, as persons who have gone to the United Nations. I've represented this country in a delegation to go and defend some kind of human rights report and making promises that we never kept. You know, nothing could be more embarrassing at this time. Look, our country should work towards uniting itself. We can't be fighting against ourselves. We can't be taking delight in, using some persons as example, as scapegoats, whereas we're leaving the more important issues. Yeah. So you ask me whether your Attorney General, I heard my friend Adeyaju asking the Attorney General to exercise his powers. The Attorney General must know that there are provisions of the law that that power is not discretionary, that there are times that the court must compel it to exercise that section 174 and enter a nolle in this case. Because our country, look, you can't kill people just because you want to try them. And what are we talking about? Children that were protesting against hunger, and then you want to kill them with hunger, effectively under detention, and then you give that kind of very strange and unrealistic bail condition. Yeah. What are we trying to do? Who are we trying to please? Who are we fighting against? As if, who is instructing us to do this? We are a country, for goodness sake, a sovereign country. We shouldn't be acting as if we don't have a future.
Yeah, we'll have to
for the first time, I just wished we can actually trade places. I would have loved to sit there because
so you can actually express how
really
terribly
we understand this, Frank, and to think that not just too far, we've seen a very big politician given a bail condition that is more like, a slap in the wrist.
Something is fundamentally wrong, isn't it?
Frank Tietie, a delight having you here, and we'll stay on this, clearly. Thank you.
Definitely.